Welcome, traveler. We're glad you're here. Every story you hear is made with care and passion. If you enjoy it, please like, subscribe, and check out the other adventures waiting for you on our channel. Your support means the world. Thank you. The quantum core's rhythmic pulse faltered, then surged, a telltale sonic signature that made Dr. Eliza Chen's blood run cold. She'd heard it once before, 3 years ago, when the first contact expedition ended with 17 dead researchers and a destroyed orbital platform. Warning, dimensional stability compromised, announced the station's AI, its tone eerily serene against the rising pitch of emergency alerts. Cascade failure imminent in 7 minutes, 13 seconds. Eliza's fingers flew across the haptic interface, emergency protocols activated purely by muscle memory. Colonel Reeves. Get me containment status on Lab 3, now. The familiar tightness gripped her chest as fractals of quantum corruption spread across her display. Each pattern too similar to those from the Helios disaster to be coincidence. Her breath caught as the mathematical tendrils reached toward the station's central core, a death sentence rendered in elegant equations. Behind her, the lab's security doors sealed with a pneumatic hiss that cut through the cacophony of alarms. Colonel Marcus Reeves's heavy footsteps approached, his breathing controlled but audible. Containment failing, he reported, voice clipped and precise, the vocal pattern of a soldier purposefully suppressing panic. The Axioni delegates were in Lab 3 when the fluctuations began. They're requesting immediate evacuation to their vessel. Denied, Eliza snapped, not looking up from the quantum projection spiraling across her display. The breach originated in their lab. If they leave now, they take the instability with them, straight to their homeworld. The emergency lighting bathed the command center in pulsing crimson, casting stark shadows across Reeves's weathered face. In the 3 years they'd worked together since the Helios disaster, she'd never seen him truly afraid. Until now. They're claiming diplomatic immunity, Doctor. And their ship is powering weapon systems. Of course they are. Eliza's throat tightened. Not again. Not another 17 souls. Not another failure. Her communit chimed with an incoming transmission. Ambassador Zelthax's triangular pupils filled the small screen, their silver membranes retracting, a physiological tell Eliza had learned meant either fear or deception in Axioni psychology. Dr. Chen, the ambassador's voice thrummed with subharmonic frequencies that made Eliza's molars ache. A most unfortunate accident. We must return to our vessel immediately to engage proper containment measures. Lies. The resonance patterns in the quantum field matched exactly what she'd recorded during the first contact disaster, a deliberate attempt to create a dimensional rupture point. Not an accident. Never an accident. Eliza silenced the transmission with a swipe. 6 minutes remaining. She pulled up the station schematics, mind racing through possibilities. The Axioni vessel was already disengaging docking clamps, emergency protocols overridden by their diplomatic access codes. Colonel, get every human off this station. Emergency pods, now. Reeves's jaw tightened. And you? I'm staying. Her voice remained steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. Someone has to close the breach. With respect, Doctor, you said yourself it can't be contained. Not with our current technology. Eliza's gaze shifted to the sealed case beneath her workstation, the culmination of 3 years' obsessive work since the first contact catastrophe. Inside sat the prototype quantum resonator, untested and theoretically impossible according to both human and Axioni physics. They think it can't be contained, she corrected, keying in her personal access code. The case hissed open, revealing the device's gleaming surface. They think we're still working with last decade's quantum theories. The colonel's eyes widened as understanding dawned. You built a defense. You knew they'd try again. I hoped they wouldn't. Eliza lifted the device, its weight reassuring in her palms. But hope isn't a strategy. Now get our people to safety. The station shuddered as the Axioni vessel fully disengaged, alarms blaring throughout the command center. 5 minutes remaining. Reeves hesitated, torn between duty and the instinct to not abandon his colleague. The evac pods won't outrun the quantum cascade if it fully manifests. They won't have to. Eliza's fingers danced across the resonator's interface, calibrating its frequency to the quantum disruption signature. I'm not trying to outrun it. I'm going to collapse it. Understanding passed between them, the realization that she was likely sacrificing herself. Reeves gripped her shoulder briefly, a soldier's acknowledgement of courage, then turned toward the emergency protocol station. You're not staying alone, he said, his tone brooking no argument as he keyed in commands. I'm evacuating all non-essential personnel. My security team stays. Marcus, that's an order, Doctor, he cut her off, using her first name for perhaps the first time in their professional relationship. I didn't leave 17 behind on Alios. I'm not leaving you behind today. The first time Eliza had witnessed a quantum breach, she'd been powerless. The memory surfaced with brutal clarity as she calibrated the resonator, the excited chatter of the Alio Station research team as they prepared for humanity's first official contact with the Axioni delegation. The diplomatic corps in their pressed uniforms, scientists with notebooks ready, all those eager faces. All those soon-to-be dead faces, the subtle changes in the quantum readings that only she had noticed. Too late, the station's hull had ripped apart like tissue paper as space-time itself warped around them. Through the observation window, Eliza had watched 17 colleagues and friends pulled into the dimensional rift. Their screams still echoed in her nightmares, cutting out suddenly as the emergency bulkhead sealed, leaving her safe in the command module. The sole survivor. A fresh alarm yanked her back to the present. The quantum fluctuations were intensifying, the breach widening at an accelerating rate. Station AI, she commanded, voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. Redirect all remaining power to the main transmitter array. Warning, this action will deplete life support reserves, the AI responded. Time to critical failure, 3 minutes, 42 seconds. Confirmed. The station's lights dimmed as power surged into the transmitter systems. Eliza connected her resonator to the main array, watching as the quantum algorithms she'd spent years perfecting flowed into the system. Her comm unit chimed again. All non-essential personnel accounted for in evacuation pods, Reeves reported through the station's internal security team in position. What's the play, Doctor? She glanced at the tactical display. Reeves had positioned his 6-person security detail at strategic points throughout the station, ready to repel boarders or assist with technical systems as needed. The man had already anticipated multiple scenarios. The resonator will target the Axioni vessel, she explained, fingers flying across the calibration interface. If it works, the quantum breach will collapse back on itself, but there's a high probability they'll retaliate with conventional weapons. Let them try, Reeves replied with cold determination. Humanity ends its role as punching bag today. On her display, the Axioni vessel's engines flared bright, preparing for the final jump to safety. Too late, they would realize what she'd done, that humanity wasn't the technologically inferior species they believed. Transmitting now, she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. The resonator pulsed, channeling its counter-frequency through the station's array directly to the escaping ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Axioni vessel froze in space, enveloped in a shimmering field of quantum particles as the resonator's wave function collapsed around it. On her display, the countdown slowed, then stopped entirely at 2 minutes, 17 seconds. The breach began to stabilize, the destructive energy being drawn back like water down a drain. Containment readings shifted from critical red to cautionary amber across her monitors. The impossible was happening. Eliza allowed herself a single, shaky breath. The resonator had worked, containing the quantum cascade and trapping the Axioni vessel in a localized dimensional pocket. They weren't destroyed, merely contained. Precisely measured justice. Doctor? Reeves's voice came through, tension evident even through the comm static. We're detecting energy buildups in the contained vessel. They're attempting to break free. Before she could respond, the quantum field surrounding the Axioni ship pulsed with violent energy, not dissipating, but changing frequency. Whatever countermeasures the aliens were deploying, they were sophisticated. They're using their own version of quantum manipulation, Eliza realized, watching the resonance patterns shift. attempting to counteract our containment field. The station shuddered as a focused beam of energy lanced out from the Axioni vessel, striking Prometheus's outer hull. Despite being partially contained, they had weapons capabilities Eliza hadn't anticipated. Multiple hull breaches in sectors 4 and 6, the station AI reported with inappropriate calm. Defensive countermeasures online. Return fire, Reeves ordered through the command channel. All batteries. Keep them contained. Eliza watched in stunned silence as the situation escalated from scientific containment to outright combat in seconds. The station's defensive systems, installed after the Helios disaster as a precaution, responded with precise energy bursts targeted at the Axioni vessel's weapons arrays. The resonator, she said suddenly, a new idea forming. Colonel, it can do more than contain. I'm listening. If I reverse the field polarity and amplify the resonance frequency, we could collapse their quantum shielding entirely. Their vessel would be exposed to unfiltered spacetime distortion. A brief silence hung on the comm. They both understood what she was suggesting, not mere containment, but potentially destructive action against another species. Do it, Reeves said finally. They made their choice when they attacked a research station. Twice. Eliza's fingers moved across the resonator controls, making the necessary adjustments. Another energy blast from the Axioni vessel rocked the station, throwing her against the console. Hurry, Doctor, Reeves urged as damage reports flooded the tactical display. We can't take much more of this. The resonator hummed as its configuration changed, the quantum field around the Axioni vessel shifting from containment to active disruption. Through the viewport, Eliza could see the alien ship's hull beginning to warp as space-time fabric rippled around it. Warning, unknown quantum reaction detected, the station AI announced. Recommend immediate evacuation of all personnel. Too late. The resonator's effect propagated through the Axioni vessel, its hull twisting in impossible geometries as the quantum field collapsed inward. A blinding flash of energy erupted from the ship, followed by absolute silence when Eliza's vision cleared. The Axioni vessel was gone, not destroyed in the conventional sense, but removed from normal space-time. The resonator's display showed a small, stable quantum anomaly where the ship had been, a pocket of altered reality containing the would-be attackers. What did you do? Reeves's voice came through the comm, a mixture of awe and concern. I placed them in dimensional stasis, Eliza replied, her voice distant even to her own ears. They exist, but outside our normal space-time reference. They can't hurt anyone now. 3 years earlier, in the aftermath of the Helios disaster, Eliza had stood before the United Earth Security Council, her hands still bandaged from the emergency evacuation, her voice hoarse from smoke inhalation. The senior military representative, then Major Marcus Reeves, had asked the question that would define both their lives for the next 3 years. Dr. Chen, in your professional assessment, was this an accident? The chamber had fallen silent, 47 pairs of eyes fixed on her. The Axioni representatives had already delivered their formal condolences, their elaborate explanation of quantum instabilities and unforeseen technological incompatibilities between their systems and human equipment. Such a tragic accident, they had said. So unfortunate, so unexpected, but Eliza had been monitoring the quantum field during the entire interaction. She had seen the patterns shift, seen the carefully calculated frequency adjustments the Axioni had introduced into what should have been a simple scientific demonstration. She raised her chin and met Reeves's gaze directly. No, Major. It was not an accident. The chamber had erupted in whispers, the Axioni delegates rising in protest, their triangular pupils contracting to slits. But Eliza continued, her voice growing stronger. The quantum resonance pattern that destroyed Helios station was deliberately induced. I've analyzed the sensor data. The probability of those specific field fluctuations occurring naturally is approximately 1 in 10 to the 27th power. That's a serious accusation, Doctor, another counselor had cautioned. It's not an accusation, Eliza had replied, calling up the quantum field data on the chamber's main display. It's a mathematical certainty. But in the end, the evidence hadn't been enough. The diplomatic fallout of accusing an advanced species of attempted genocide during first contact negotiations was deemed too risky by the Security Council. Officially, the Helios incident remained classified as a tragic accident, a cautionary tale about technological incompatibility. Unofficially, Eliza had been given carte blanche to develop countermeasures, with Reeves, promoted to colonel for his heroism during the evacuation, assigned as her security detail. For 3 years, they'd lived and breathed quantum field theory and defense preparations, sacrificing sleep, relationships, and any semblance of normal lives, all for this moment of vindication. The emergency lighting in the command center flickered as secondary systems came online. Damage reports scrolled across Eliza's display, and multiple hull breaches, power fluctuations, 2 casualties among Reeves's security team. The station had survived, but barely. "Colonel," she called through the comm, "what's your status?" "Alive," came the terse reply. "Heading to your position. Maintain containment on that anomaly." Through the viewport, the quantum anomaly that had once been the Axioni vessel pulsed with mathematical precision, beautiful, deadly, and unmistakably human in its elegant improvisation. A proof that humanity could not only defend itself but strike back when necessary. The command center doors hissed open as Reeves entered, blood seeping from a gash above his right eye. His uniform was scorched in several places, but his stride remained steady as he approached her workstation. "We need to contact Earth Command," he said without preamble. "The Axioni will respond to this with everything they have." Eliza nodded, already opening a secure channel to the nearest military relay. "This isn't over, is it?" "No," Reeves confirmed, checking the tactical displays. "This is just the beginning. The Axioni will claim we provoked them, twisted the evidence. But this time, we have everything recorded, everything logged. No more diplomatic fiction about accidents." "So what happens now?" she asked, realizing they had crossed a line from which there was no return. "Full-scale war with a technologically superior species." Reeves's weathered face showed no fear, only grim determination. "Not superior anymore, Doctor. Not where it counts." He gestured to the resonator. "Your technology just changed the equation. And there's something the Axioni don't understand about humans." "What's that?" "We're at our most dangerous when backed into a corner." He tapped in a security code, bringing online the station's advanced defense grid, a system whose existence had been classified even from most of the station's personnel. "And we're very, very good at war." The main communications array crackled to life. "Prometheus Station, this is UES Vigilant. We've detected weapons fire at your coordinates. Report status immediately." Reeves leaned toward the comm unit. "Vigilant, this is Colonel Reeves. Prometheus Station has been attacked by Axioni forces. The threat has been neutralized using Dr. Chen's quantum resonator technology. Be advised, this is likely the opening move in a wider conflict. Request immediate reinforcement and strategic defense deployment." "Understood, Colonel." Admiral Wallace sends word that the fleet is already mobilizing. Axioni vessels have attacked 3 other human outposts in the past hour. "We are now at war." The words hung in the air, official confirmation of what they already knew. Humanity was facing its first interstellar conflict against an enemy with centuries of technological advancement and dozens of star systems under their control. "Vigilant," Reeves continued, his voice steady, "request priority extraction of Dr. Chen and the quantum resonator prototype. This technology represents our best chance at defensive parity." "Affirmative." "Extraction team inbound." ETA 12 minutes. Eliza stared at the quantum anomaly through the viewport, a mixture of pride and horror swirling in her chest. Her creation, designed to save lives, had become the catalyst for war. Yet she couldn't bring herself to regret its development. Not when the alternative was extinction at the hands of a species that viewed humanity as an inconvenient threat to be eliminated. "You're thinking too much, Doctor," Reeves said quietly, reading her expression. "They started this. Helios wasn't enough for them, they came back to finish the job." "I know," she replied, beginning the process of preparing the resonator for transport. I wish there had been another way." "There was. They could have left us alone." Reeves checked his weapon, a soldier preparing for the next battle. Humanity has never sought conflict with any species. But neither will we lie down and die for their convenience. Through the viewport, the first response vessels were approaching, humanity answering the call to arms. Beyond them, the stars seemed suddenly more threatening, hiding unknown dangers and enemies. But for the first time since that devastating first contact, Eliza felt something beyond fear and determination. She felt resolve. 6 months later, the war with the Axioni Confederation had reached a stalemate. Humanity, despite its technological disadvantages, had proven remarkably adaptable in combat. The quantum resonator technology, now deployed across the Earth defense fleet, had neutralized the Axioni's primary advantage, forcing them to rely on conventional weapons and tactics. Eliza stood in the observation deck of the UES Defiant, Earth's newest warship, watching as the massive vessel approached the contested space near Alpha Centauri. Colonel Reeves, now General Reeves following his battlefield promotion, stood beside her, his uniform now adorned with the additional insignia of his new rank. The Axioni fleet is holding position at the edge of the system, he reported, studying the tactical display. 23 vessels, including 3 of their dreadnoughts. They're waiting for reinforcements, Eliza noted, analyzing the quantum field readings from her specialized console. Their communications suggest at least 2 more battle groups en route from their core systems. In the month since the Prometheus incident, she had refined the resonator technology significantly. What had begun as a defensive containment system had evolved into a sophisticated weapon capable of detecting, disrupting, and even manipulating quantum fields at tremendous distances. The Axioni's technological edge was eroding with each engagement. The Defiant's captain approached, saluting General Reeves before addressing them both. "We're receiving a transmission from the Axioni flagship. They're requesting a cessation of hostilities for diplomatic discussions." Eliza and Reeves exchanged a glance of surprise. The Axioni had previously refused all attempts at negotiation, certain of their eventual victory despite the initial setbacks. "Something's changed," Reeves said, his eyes narrowing in suspicion. "Put it through." The main display activated, showing an Axioni figure unlike any they had encountered before. Where the typical Axioni diplomat or officer presented in shades of blue or purple, this individual's skin rippled with deep crimson patterns that the cultural briefings had identified as indicating highest authority. "I am Supreme Commander Thraxis of the Axioni Confederation," the alien began, subharmonic frequencies less pronounced than usual, clearly modified for human comfort. "I speak directly to the creators of the quantum field technology that has altered the balance of our conflict." Reeves stepped forward. "This is General Marcus Reeves of the United Earth Defense Forces." "State your purpose." "The purpose is straightforward, General. Your species has demonstrated capabilities that were unanticipated. The Confederation's initial assessment of humanity appears to have been flawed. Your initial assessment led to the deaths of 17 humans on Alio's station," Eliza interjected, unable to contain herself. "And attempted mass casualty events at multiple research outposts." The Supreme Commander's skin pulsed with patterns that the translation system interpreted as complex acknowledgement. "The Confederation security protocols regarding emergent technological species are being re-evaluated in light of recent events." "You mean," Reeves translated bluntly, "you're not used to losing." "Conflict outcomes are irrelevant when existence itself is threatened," Thraxis replied. "Your quantum resonator technology has proven capable of manipulating fundamental reality in ways the Confederation had believed impossible for your developmental stage." Eliza stepped closer to the display. "We developed it because you left us no choice. Adapt or die, that was the choice you presented humanity. And you adapted." The Supreme Commander's tone carried what might have been reluctant respect. "More rapidly and more effectively than any species encountered in the Confederation's 8,000-year history." The implications of that statement hung in the air. Humanity wasn't the first species the Axioni had attempted to contain before they could become a perceived threat. But they were apparently the first to fight back successfully. "The Confederation proposes a military withdrawal from all contested systems," Thraxis continued, "in exchange for technical specifications regarding the quantum resonator technology." Reeves's laugh held no humor. "You attack our outposts, attempt to slaughter our researchers, and then expect us to hand over our primary defense technology. The arrogance is astounding. Not arrogance, General. Pragmatism. The Supreme Commander's skin shifted to patterns indicating formal diplomatic engagement. The technology exists. It cannot be UN invented. Better to understand and regulate it than to allow uncontrolled proliferation throughout the galaxy. Eliza considered the offer, reading between the lines of what was being proposed. You're afraid, she realized suddenly. Not just of us, but of what happens when other species acquire similar capabilities. Concern for galactic stability is the Confederation's primary directive, Thraxis confirmed, neither confirming nor denying her assessment directly. The quantum resonator represents a fundamental shift in that stability. Reeves turned to Eliza, speaking quietly. What do you think? I think they're running scared, she replied in equally hushed tones. The resonator doesn't just neutralize their technological advantage, it demonstrates that humanity can innovate in ways they can't predict. That makes us more dangerous than a conventionally superior force. Reeves nodded, then turned back to the display. The United Earth government will consider your proposal, Supreme Commander. But our terms will include full accountability for the Alios attack, reparations for all affected outposts, and recognition of humanity's sovereign rights to all currently settled systems. These terms are substantial, Thraxis observed, skin patterns shifting rapidly. They're non-negotiable, Reeves replied flatly. Humanity will not be designated as a contained species or subjected to technological restrictions of any kind. We join the galactic community as equals, or we continue to demonstrate our adaptability on the battlefield. The implied threat wasn't subtle. Already, human ships equipped with resonator technology had neutralized Axioni vessels with minimal casualties. The longer the conflict continued, the more refined the technology would become. I will convey your position to the Confederation High Council, Thraxis said finally. But know this, humans, the galaxy is larger and more complex than you yet comprehend. There are threats beyond your current understanding that necessitate certain protective measures. Then perhaps, Eliza suggested, the Axioni should consider humanity as potential allies against those threats, rather than a species to be eliminated before we become inconvenient. The Supreme Commander's skin displayed patterns that the translation system couldn't fully interpret, complex emotional and conceptual signals beyond human linguistic frameworks. Transmission ends, the alien stated simply. Before the display went dark, Reeves turned to Eliza, his expression grave but determined. They'll be back either with acceptance of our terms or with a larger fleet. Either way, she replied, humanity will be ready. Through the viewport, Earth's defense fleet held position against the backdrop of stars, ships crewed by a species that had gone from timid explorers to battle-hardened defenders in less than a decade. A species that had transformed theoretical physics into practical weapons when faced with extinction. The quantum resonator had changed everything, not just the balance of power, but humanity's understanding of our place in the cosmos. We weren't the most advanced civilization, but we had proven to be the most adaptable. The species that refused to accept elimination as our fate, the Axioni fleet began to withdraw, engines flaring against the darkness as they retreated to a safe distance. Not in defeat, but in strategic reassessment. The war wasn't over, it had merely entered a new phase. You know, Reeves said quietly, watching the alien ships depart, I never wanted to be a wartime general. And I never wanted to be a weapons designer, Eliza replied, her gaze fixed on the resonator readouts. But here we are. Here we are, he agreed. Fighting for humanity's right to exist. The star field beyond seemed suddenly vaster, filled with unknown threats and potential allies alike. But humanity would face whatever came next with our greatest weapon, our refusal to accept limitation, our capacity to transform crisis into opportunity, our relentless drive to survive against all odds. We don't stay fragile for long. Earth would survive among the stars not because we were strongest or first, but because we were the species that learned from our failures, that built defenses from the ashes of our defeats, that turned theoretical physics into practical salvation in the space of 3 desperate years, the species that refused to make the same mistake twice. Prepare the fleet, General Reeves ordered, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's resolve. This isn't over.